Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Mike DuPhily. I'm the Educational and Outreach Coordinator here. So today we have Mike DuPhily, my handsome husband. He is actually going to be going over Mitel Revolutions. And with that, I'll go ahead and let Mike take care of the rest. Mike, it's all yours.
Thanks, Brittany. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. Wanted to talk a little bit about kind of a really cool solution we have sort of as an add-on for the Mitel Connect PBX. We can also use this system actually with different systems. Mitel has this branded as Revolution, but if you've been around for a while, this product is actually from a company named Synapse, and this is the evolution of what used to be called their SA Announce product, and really is one of the coolest solutions I think we have kind of as a bolt-on to the system for some really neat and fun use cases in some scenarios. I have a few slides from a presentation I have shamelessly lifted from Mitel here, but I think they really help explain a lot about what this product is and what it can do. Right. So what Mitel Revolution is essentially it's an add-on server. So this is a virtual machine, a virtual appliance that we can add to the system. And it provides us enhanced mass notification and communication capabilities. So essentially, this is our solution for mass notification. So think of emergency notifications if there's, for instance, a severe weather event, or if there's an emergency somewhere in your building or on your campus and people need to be notified, we can handle that. Additionally, we can also handle any kind of mass communication. So something like, for instance, a page, right, a paging system. So we've obviously have paging capabilities built into the PBX between the phones, but what if we wanted to integrate other modalities to send a page to somebody's cell phone, for instance, or to IP speakers or external paging speakers? We can basically integrate any number of kind of communication modalities using the Revolution server, tie those into the phone system as well, and create a really useful and feature-rich mass notification and communication system. So kind of what I just talked about, it's three capabilities, right? So our multimedia mass notification, and those can be, for instance, automatically triggered or on demand. So something like a weather alert, we might want to be automatically triggered when we receive that alert from the National Weather Service. Maybe an on-demand notification if you want to inform people in your organization about an event. You can also do those kind of as one-offs on demand. It is multimedia, so it's obviously can be audio connected to the phone system, but we can also send text and videos. So even an ability to integrate with devices with displays and things like that. We can do pre-scheduled notifications. So when I show you this kind of live here in a moment, we do have the ability to do notifications like bells, for instance, for a school. But also shift changes, closures, things like that. We can integrate with, a number of different modes, so audio, video, text, and we can send those even to things like email, SMS, Revolution clients. So we do have a desktop PC clients and mobile clients that you can use on your cell phone for receiving these notifications or triggering them. And then all sorts of ways to trigger it from even outside the organization. So obviously the mobile client, you can call into a number to trigger a notification that could be pre-programmed or not, or email. Lots and lots of different ways to create these notifications and deliver them. One of its biggest and primary use cases is obviously emergency alert notifications. So obviously our big ones there are going to be notifications for emergency calls. So if, for instance, 911 was dialed, we obviously have some out-of-the-box ability to notify users if 911 was dialed on the phone system natively. But using Revolution, we can enhance that tremendously with the ability to use that kind of multimedia, communication mode notification capability to send those notifications to multiple users, multiple different ways. So with SMS, email, phone calls, mobile alert, many different ways we can deliver that. Similarly, weather notifications, the other type of emergency that we can use the system for. Right out of the box, the Revolution server has built-in integrations with the National Weather Service weather event feeds. So we can do, geographically filtered weather notifications just for, the area we're setting the notification service up for, as well as what's called the IPALS alert notification service. So these would be kind of civil emergencies. For instance, you think of like a train derailment in Ohio, for instance, the alerts associated with that would be from the IPALS system. And right out of the box, with no additional cost, the system will integrate with both of those public alert feeds. Additionally, any other kind of CAP, Common Alerting Protocol alert system, the Mitel Revolution server can integrate with. So if you have some sort of private alert feed that you subscribe to or use, we can generally work with those as well. And of course, built around both of these systems is a rich management layer. So we can divide users up by, for instance, just site or location. So we can do it based on, for instance, an IP address. We can add tags to a user for specific locations. With the mobile client, we even have automatic geolocation and geofencing capability, so that if an alert is defined to only be triggered for a particular geographic area, and somebody with the mobile client is outside of that area, they wouldn't receive that alert, which is a really cool capability as well. So lots of different ways this can be used. Kind of as many as you can think of different ways you can set this up for your own organization. These are just some examples, obviously weather alerts, building security, 911 call monitoring are kind of our big ones here. And then in some of these different sectors, we have a lot of different uses. I think probably the ones that we see the most interest from would obviously be K through 12 education or higher education. It's obviously this mass notification alerting capability be very useful in those scenarios, as well as some retail, manufacturing, transportation, and venue use. Really, that's where these kind of mass notification systems shine. Another big reason why you might want to add this to your system as an even more enhanced capability is, of course, some better compliance, or to enable compliance with some relatively new regulations that have to do with emergency calling, Kari's Law and Baum's Act. Kari's Law in particular requires that multi-user telephone systems have the ability to notify callers or responsible staff when 911 is called from a location. And then the Baum's Act requires that when 911 calls are made, that more granular location information is provided along with that call to make sure that emergency staff are headed to the right place. The notification, automatic 911 call notification capability that's built into Revolution helps us satisfy both of these requirements, because when that notification is generated, we can include very granular location data to the staff that are notified, and they can help direct emergency personnel to the right location, which is really the intent of both of these laws, to make sure that people know that there is an emergency and they know where it's happening, so they can help direct first responders to the key locations.
And Mike actually did a webinar several months ago about both of these laws as well. So that is up on our YouTube channel if anybody wants to know anything else about it that's more generalized towards the Mitel system as well. So
yes, yeah, thank you for that. We did do a specific webinar on that. Yes, at the time when these laws were first coming out.
Yep, going into effect.
So kind of a high-level overview of really how all this works, kind of everything I've talked about. So to start a notification or a communication we have what are called triggers built into the system. And as you can see, these can be just about anything. So obviously for the phone system, we're integrated there. We can dial an extension or a number to trigger a notification, but we can also receive an email or initiate it from the web interface or initiate it from the mobile app or integrate with some physical buttons. So there are a huge array of kind of other manufacturers who make buttons and call stations and displays and notification lights and beepers and pagers that we can integrate with that can also act as triggers for the system. So something like a panic button under a desk, for instance. Or if we receive a CAP alert and a tornado warning or some kind of other civil emergency alert. Or even if you're really brave, you can integrate this with Teams, and somebody can, put in a keyword or phrase in a Teams channel, and the system can trigger an alert from that. So really just about any way you can think of, we can generate an alert and integrate with different systems to activate that alert. And then of course that's going to activate a different or a type of notification. And those can be, obviously something like an emergency alert where we're, opening up some speakers and ringing some phones or just playing an alert sound, even maybe sending the text details of that alert to phone displays or other displays throughout the building. But it could also be something a little more prosaic, like a school bell, right? In which case the activator for that might just be a calendar, a schedule on a calendar. And the school bell might just be a sound that we play a wave file through the speakers. And then of course, other notifications, fire drills, alerts for meetings, start and stop times, security alerts for doors opening and closing. All of those can be set up and integrated. And of course, we can send those notifications to any number of endpoints. So we talked about some of them, but this is kind of the full list. So we have obviously the desktop clients. So this is an app that's installed on a PC or a Mac or an iPad. Of course, the mobile clients, if you want to have this set up on your Android or iPhone, we can send emails to obviously one or multiple people. We can use the IP and other SIP devices as endpoints. So with the Mitel PDX, we can integrate the system with the phones. We do have both audio and display integration. So we do have the ability to display messages on the phone screen, which is somewhat unique. We can use IP or analog speakers. So if you do have sort of an older paging system set up in your office, we can absolutely integrate with that, as well as newer systems where we have kind of IP-enabled speakers where we can address them individually or as a group. Those are also very useful. We can send text messages through Twilio or another SMS integration. Other devices, so a strobe or a beacon, anything that has like a contact closure or relay, we can also integrate with. Automated mass dialing campaigns, we can integrate with that either somewhat natively through the phone system or through mass dialing services. And of course, we can republish our alerts to other feeds. So we do have the capability of creating this CAP feed, a common alerting protocol that other devices can subscribe to and capture those alerts as well. So really an open ecosystem. I said this is sort of a rebranded product that's made by a company called Synapse, which is now part of Intrado, which I think a lot of people have heard of. But because of that, we do have a lot of open integration with a lot of other tools and products that are out there. And then finally, another neat thing that we can do with these notifications is they can be multi-party. So instead of just sending a page or a one-way conversation, we do have the ability to receive responses to verify that people have received notifications, or even to initiate two-way audio or conference call capability with the notified parties. So we can do something as interesting as, when an emergency alert is triggered, it can automatically create a conference call and bridge in the appropriate personnel immediately as part of that notification, which is a really neat capability. I do want to particularly mention, obviously, the mobile client, because this enables some very cool capabilities as well. Obviously, it allows for the two-way notifications we just talked about. And then additionally, with the GPS capability built into your smartphone, we can identify your actual location, and it enables kind of geolocation and geofencing capability for the alerts. So for instance, if we were publishing, for instance, a weather alert, we might not want to send that to people who aren't in the area where that alert is actually happening. And with that geolocation capability with the mobile client, we have the ability to do that. And then, of course, I did mention a large open market for products that integrate with this. In particular, lots of different kinds of sensors and notification types. So we can do, strobes, fire alarms, LED display boards you can see here, and even some specialized sensors for things like motion detection and even gunshot detection that can trigger these alerts and generate notifications. Yeah, lots of different tools we have and ways to generate these notifications and receive them. And then finally, I did mention initially this is just a premise-based solution, but we can host it in the data center. So if you're already set up with a private cloud environment, we can absolutely deploy this as a virtual appliance to add it to the system. Additionally, it does support redundancy options. So if you do need a highly available solution, we do have the option to set up, one or more than one server with active passive or active redundancy for very highly fault tolerant situations where this kind of notification is critical for your mission. All right, so end of the slides I lifted. I did want to go ahead and show everyone what the product looks like for real here. I went ahead and got logged into one of our customer systems. This is a small private school here near us in Florida. You'll notice that the branding says Untitled Revolution. That's happened with the latest update. This is still the Mitel Revolution product. The branding is just a little different, but functionally they're exactly the same. What I'm looking at here is the web interface for the system. So this is where I could configure the system, set up the different notifications, but also, depending on my role, I'll have the ability to either create notifications on the fly or trigger pre-prepared or pre-configured notifications that maybe the administrator has created for me. Right here from the dashboard, I can see right here a quick notification center where I could send a quick pre-configured notification to the system. Below that, I can see my upcoming scheduled notifications. So in this case, the school is using this to run their bell system. So I can see the upcoming bell schedule here. I can see to the right a summary of my recently sent notifications and kind of the statistics around those. The system does track whether notifications are received, and if we do want to set up a notification that requires a response, we can even track that here. And this is going to give us the status of those notifications here and the devices they were sent to. So, in fact, the bell is ringing now. Finally, underneath here we have a map. So if we are using that mobile client or we have a geographically distributed environment that we're sending these notifications to, we do have the ability to configure addresses for all those devices and locations. We can set them up on the map here and generate notifications based on geography, which is a very useful feature. So as we're kind of looking at before, when we set up these notifications, it's kind of the heart and soul of the system here, these different notifications. Setting them up is very easy. I click a new notification button here. I can give it a name. And then here under our notification type, I can choose what kind of notification this is going to be. As you can see, we have a lot of different options here. So that conference call option, right? One way, very popular. So that's kind of our paging option that we would use. Or stored audio, if we just want to have a file that we tell or play for a bell or a tornado warning or alert. Or even text and images, right? If I want to send some text to a phone display or send a picture to some other displays. Lots of different ways and types of notifications we can generate. I'll just choose this one way as an example here. Lots of things we can set up here, including priorities. We can set up schedule so that alerts can or can't be triggered during certain hours of the day. And then kind of our first step here, we can choose what is going to activate the notification. And these would be things that we would set up generally ahead of time. But for instance, if I were to choose SIP here, this is just going to let me choose, in this case, these are numbers that are set up on the phone system. Or if I wanted to even create a new one, we can do that right from here. So this would just be an extension we would call to trigger a notification here, in this case, a page, for instance. Other options we can choose specifically for the phone system, whether to show caller ID, even things, what kind of font size, many, many options here. Then, of course, the devices we want to send it to. And many ways we can organize those, either individually by clicking on individual, in this case, phone extensions here. But we can also organize users by tags. In this case, we have these organized by their building on campus, or either system tags, so they can organize things like IP address, manufacturer, or phone system site or user group. But once a notification is configured, it will show up here in the notification list, and we'll be able to either use the configured initiator, in the case of something like a phone call, to trigger it, or in the case of most of these, since this is a school for a bell, we also have the option of configuring schedules, which is how most of these notifications here are triggered. So based on a recurring schedule, we're actually ringing these bell notifications here each day to different parts of the school, depending on the grade level. And this has worked very well for them. Now, additionally, besides those notifications we talked about here, again, we can integrate with a number of public alert feeds right out of the box. So pre-configured for us, we have alert integrations here for Amber Alerts, the iPulse alerts, and weather service alerts. And these can be completely dialed in to whatever you would like to use in your own environment. In this case, we're only concerned, or the school is only concerned about really alerting the whole school in case of a tornado warning. So we've actually configured the NWS alert here, restricted just to our location, particularly here in Florida, and only for the tornado warning alert types. But we have all alert types available to the system, so we can configure this, again, in any sort of combination of ways for different kinds of alerts to different people at different times, whatever makes sense for your organization. And then, of course, from a technical perspective for the IT guys, we do have fully manageable system status here. Again, this is device's virtual appliance, so we don't have to worry about Windows licensing or things like that with it. Just a virtual appliance that we deploy with a web interface that we can then integrate with the rest of the environment. Fully role-based system management capabilities. So we can integrate with Active Directory if needed. We can create individual users here and provide them different roles to access different things. So obviously, most organizations, the person who's potentially managing or creating these notifications might not be the person who has the ability to trigger them. And we can have very granular role-based access control where you can set up a user who's only allowed to initiate notifications, particular notifications. They may be allowed to do that and create one-off notifications. And then finally, you might have another user who is kind of a full-blown admin who is able to administer the entire system. Just mention here something I skipped over earlier. Our endpoints are the devices that we can deliver notifications to. In this case, these are mostly our phones, but we do also have these algo IP devices, which are actually speakers that are spread throughout the school to provide kind of that paging capability. And this would also include the mobile client here. So you can see this mobile gateway. We have a mail integration here, so we're using able to send emails. And then some other devices. So any kind of endpoint we can select as part of a notification. These are, again, going to be all those devices we talked about, ways we can send it, that include SMS, email, the mobile, and PC client devices. Now, unfortunately, I don't want to trigger a notification here just because I am using someone else's live system here. Otherwise, I would demonstrate it. Although we did see earlier a bell actually rang while we were talking. So I can actually see the results of that notification here. And in fact, I can see, out of 39 endpoints, we actually had one that has an error. So this is probably a phone that is unplugged or disconnected that didn't receive that alert. So we do have really good logging and the ability to track whether or not those notifications were received and by whom, and then also to initiate even responses to those notifications that we would be able to track here if we did want to make sure that those were received. Just because I mentioned it, I did want to speak to it. As far as devices go that can be used with the Revolution, I like to point out this particular manufacturer, Algo, we use and recommend their products a lot, and they make a number of very cool, very useful products that are completely compatible or fully compatible with the Revolution system, to the point that these devices run custom firmware that will automatically integrate with the Revolution system if they're connected together on the same network. And these are a number of devices, so things for paging, so speakers, including just alerter speakers, but also large exterior horns, ceiling speakers for kind of a more traditional paging system, even some speakers that have built-in clocks and lights, which are pretty neat. They make a strobe visual alerter for situations where maybe there are loud noises and we still want to make sure we're getting people's attention, as well as some really, really neat combination display and speaker systems, which would really allow us to use that multimedia capability, since we can send both audio and visual data to these displays for in an alert situation. So if you're looking for those kind of products to integrate your environment, definitely recommend checking out Algo. And of course, we're happy to consult with you and help pick the right kinds of equipment, or help you integrate the equipment in your environment if you're looking for to integrate these kind of third-party notification systems into your environment. But with that, I think I'll go ahead and open it up to questions. I think that was pretty much all I had to cover with it here today. It's a little short, but I think a lot of people are pretty familiar with the kinds of capabilities systems like this have. And Revolution in particular, like I said, it is kind of the one of the larger notification providers out there, and it's good that we've been able to partner with them to really fully integrate this into the Connect solution. I think this is a very easy and kind of seamless product to use in a Mitel Connect environment.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. The only thing I can think of is there a way for you to kind of show them going through setting up a new alert without obviously going completely through with one for Redeemer?
Of course. Yeah, so if I wanted to set up kind of a new one here, I'll go ahead and do it and save it. So we'll do kind of a simple bell integration like we have here. So again, let's give it a name here. I'll call it test bell. This is going to be a stored audio type notification. So I'm just going to be playing a WAV file that I either already have or have pre-uploaded to the server. The bell sounds do get stored on the server here, and I can upload and download those as needed.
And actually, you can see all the options that he gave him when he did that drop down as well. So
yes, yeah, we looked at those earlier. Activation type, obviously going to be kind of iteration, right? I want it to do one play of this file, but potentially if it was a very short, just sort of a ding, and I wanted to have 2 or 3 or 4 dings, we can change this iterations here. In this case, I'm just going to leave it set to 1. We can adjust the priority as needed. This is in cases where multiple notifications come in at the same time. Obviously, we can only play one at a time on a device. And depending on the type of device we're sending the notification to, we may or may not have the ability to queue it. So this priority helps us in situations where something that may be a higher priority alert, like a tornado warning, maybe we want to make sure everyone gets that versus a notification about lunchtime changing or something. We'll then select the trigger that is going to initiate this alert. Again, lots of different options here. If I wanted to trigger this from the phone system, I could just select Mitel here as the trigger, and then select what is going to trigger that. You'll notice here that we have one that's automatically created for us for our 911 notifications. So this is how we would create notifications based on 911 being dialed. But in this case, I could do a new trigger based on some other number. Just test number here. There you go, and that would activate based on the test number. Message details, again, some things we can adjust based on the particular kind of alert we're sending. In this case, so this is an audio alert. Here under the select audio, I would have to choose the audio I'd like to play. Many of these are built into the system. So we do have a number of alerts or alert sounds that are built in that we can use. A number of these we've also uploaded ourselves that are kind of specific to the school environment. There's a neat one about a moving walkway. I'll just pick that one to use as an example here. We can set the volume that we're going to play this at. Depending on the device, we may or may not have the ability to control that far side volume, but with something modern like an IP speaker, we definitely would have the ability, and we can set that to a lower or louder volume from the notification. And then some extra information for text if we were sending that. And then if we needed to an action, so something that would happen or we would want to happen in response to this. In this case, this is just a one-way stored audio. But for instance, if we wanted to set up a response here, this would be where we would configure that, choose what we want the response selections to be and things like that. We can also have this notification trigger another notification. So that can be useful, for instance, if we do want to set up that conference bridge. Generally speaking, that would be daisy chained on as a second notification attached to the original actual notification. And we can even do this notify web action, which is just a webhook that we can use with any kind of third-party service that can ingest sort of an API. We could expose that to it and do some really, really interesting integrations with something like if this, then that, for instance, is a service that could take an action based on a notification generated here. And then finally, we just choose the devices we want to receive this notification. Generally speaking, we're going to be using these tags for that. So we'll have either devices organized into geographies or particular buildings in this case. So I could choose which devices, for instance, if I wanted to send this to the high school, I would just select the high school tag here. That contains 27 devices that we've already put into this high school tag. And then we'll save that. And that's a simple notification here. So creating notifications, very easy. If I needed to trigger this, I could obviously dial the number I set up for it, or with the right permissions here at the dashboard, I can add it to this quick notifications. Test there. And if I were to click this here, which I will not do, that would actually trigger the notification and send it out manually right away. So yeah, creating a new notification, very, very simple.
Looks like we had another question come in saying, could you show how to set up an activator or trigger for an NWS or another alerting system?
Yeah. So depending on what those may be, or our other alert systems. So NWS we would set up here through public alerts in NWS. What I would do is create a new NWS feed here. I'm not gonna really configure this stuff. I'll just go ahead and put it onto a particular county geography here, just so we have something. I have to choose the configuration of the alert here. So what kind of risks here, you can see the choices here. And then for what kind of weather types. Yeah, lots of options here. Click next there, just make sure that this is available. Let it save. All right, so now I've got our kind of not really sort of pseudo configured NWS alert here. And then essentially all we need to do is attach that to a notification. So for instance, pretend my test bell is a NWS alert here. And for our triggers, delete that one I created. The trigger here would actually be, do it as cap. Yeah. I would select cap as the type here, and then we'll see the NWS or IPALS or other feeds here. They all are covered by the common alerting protocol. And I could select this test feed as the trigger. And with this test feed attached to it, anytime a weather alert comes in that matches those filters that are set up for this particular feed, it'll go ahead and trigger whatever notification I have attached to it here. In this case, just my one-way stored audio bell, which is generally what we might use for something like a tornado warning or something like that. For a different kind of alert, depending on what it is, a lot of times something like a panic button or some other kind of device is either going to be an IP device here, in which case it'll generally have some specialized firmware that allows the system to recognize when that button press occurs, or potentially it could be something like a here. No, I guess this would be IP devices as well. Something like a contact closure type system. Generally speaking, those will have an IP interface. And in fact, I believe Synapse makes some specialized devices that allow us to connect things like just general contact closures or low voltage relays into an IP device that we can then integrate with the Revolution server.
All right. Thank you, Mike. That answered his question. The only other thing that someone had asked about is, can they see what the logging information gives you? Does it give you some useful information, or how does that work? Because I know that you were showing just a little while ago that phone that wasn't working correctly. So.
Oh yeah. So generally speaking, like it said here, there'll be some information included there, but looking at the actual logs, you can see here they're actually very detailed. So we can see if particular things aren't working very easily here. Filter on errors here. Yeah, so here we can see that error to our phone here. And then a few errors communicating with the National Weather Service there. So yeah, logging is very good here. It can be configured to send alerts via email if needed. And it does have both logging and auditing capabilities. So the audit here is telling me all the changes that are being made inside the Revolution server. So if somebody does create an alert or notification or modify something inappropriately or incorrectly, we do have the ability to go back and track all those changes and see what was made.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.